America, you are beautiful, and welcome into this week's Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham, brought to you by Freedom Chamber, online at freedomchamber.net. If you're not a member, please sign up today. You won't be disappointed. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new members have signed up just this quarter so far. We look forward to meeting you at freedomchamber.net. It's Dean Owen, it's Rod Martin, and let's talk about the Texas Stock Exchange. Something that tickled my ears right before we got on the air. And Rod, I want you to give us the 411 on what that means and how it's happening.
Well, it really is quite a big deal. And it is in some ways more a blue state exodus story than it is a Texas story, even though Texas is really reaping the benefit here. So Texas has done something rather extraordinary over the last few years. They've been very deliberate about it in the same way that South Dakota was deliberate about becoming the capital of trust and credit card processing. And Iowa has built legal infrastructure to be an insurance mecca. Texas has decided to replace New York and Delaware as much as they possibly can. So one of the main reasons you wanted to incorporate in Delaware was that you had an entire separate court system just for business that is intimately familiar with the issues pertaining to business, the Business and Commerce Code, all the different things that a large corporation would need. And indeed, two-thirds of the publicly traded, two-thirds of the Fortune 500 actually is domiciled in Delaware, even though almost none of them are headquartered there. The benefits of that system were fantastic until Delaware screwed it up. And so, you have not one, but two shareholder votes at Tesla that just strip Elon Musk of 5 years of pay. And it wasn't some crazy thing. Again, the shareholders at Tesla approved his pay package 2 separate times. The activist judge just didn't care. And why? Because she's a leftist. Okay, that's not a reason to void somebody's 5 years of pay. And yes, it was a huge pay package, but paid in stock options, not in cash. He had to hit insane milestones that the entire media said he could never, ever hit. And then once he did hit them, so this judge says, oh, that's unfair. You can't have that. So, okay, Elon moved the company to Texas, just like he moved Tesla just like he moved SpaceX out of Delaware as a domicile and California as a headquarters. They are the tip of the spear. ExxonMobil just moved to Texas after 140 years in New Jersey. The NASDAQ now has a Texas branch. The New York Stock Exchange now has a Texas branch. And then you've got the Texas Stock Exchange itself, which is, the lead partners on that are Citadel on the right, and of all crazy things, BlackRock on the left. They've been the tip of the spear on corporate ESG. So when even BlackRock and the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange all agree that they need an escape route, they need a way out of crazy town, and they need a friendly business environment in which to operate, you know that this is the beginning of the ruination of New York as a global financial center. That business is shifting to Dallas and to Palm Beach and Miami, and it ain't coming back.
No, it's not, especially if they keep electing who they're electing in New York, in New York City, and in Delaware with the judges and stuff. And Dean, your thoughts on that, because you're not that far from Texas.
Well, in a little ways, but my thoughts are that Kentucky will probably be another Texas in another 5 to 7 years when we get rid of our income tax. That's one of the things that's holding us back. We've got it down at 3.5%. We've got a big long border with Tennessee, who has no income tax, and that puts us at a disadvantage. But when these, like Rod said, when they go, they ain't coming back. And this is just the bleed out of liberal policies. It's the result of, it's everything we know. Why would you want to stay in a place that is hostile and doesn't want you and tells you to leave? Well, don't go there. We're seeing it in Seattle, New York, in particular, those two, but also in California. And it's just a massive exodus out of blue
Illinois.
states. Yeah, Illinois, that's right across the river. I'm literally about 11 miles from Illinois. And the policies there are insane. A number of years ago, probably 12, 15 years ago, I was asked to give a presentation before a committee hearing about changing in some of the Kentucky's taxes. And so I did, and I said, I have watched, Illinois had just racked up a bunch of business taxes. And I told him, I said, the last year I've had dozens and dozens of companies call me and say, hey, we want to start talking about moving out of Illinois into Kentucky. And so I would engage, but then they would figure out that if they just moved 80 miles south, 50 miles south of us, then they would be in Tennessee, and it's even more friendly environment. So, these are big. You look at, Boeing just pulled out of one of the blue states and went back to I think it was St. Louis. How many jobs has that taken? It's just massive stuff going on. And I watched my local NBC affiliate do this in 2020. They took a hard left turn and went from 140 employees to about 40. It just destroyed massive economic wealth. But somebody's doing it, and it's happening. America's voting with their wallets and their feet. And that's what conservatives do. We don't get up and march and turn into a mob and, tear up everything. We just walk away. And we're seeing that nationwide. And it's going to have some profound effects. I'm going to guess that New York and Seattle figure this out eventually, maybe another 4 or 5 years, a couple of regimes they got to change out. But eventually they'll figure it out, because if not, they go broke. And
Yeah, they will. Let me point something out here for everybody watching. I want to make sure everybody knows that I'm pretty much a geographical mind in my own mind, and I know where Texas is located next to Kentucky. What I meant to say is your policies are not that far off from being Texas, is what I meant. So I want to make sure everybody is aware of that Barham knows the geography.
Well,
Dean,
that's
let's keep.
important. And, just one more thing
But-
on that, which is this is a disaster for the socialists who have
Oh,
taken
yeah.
power in these places, because they are so driven by ideology and envy that they really want to stick it to those rich guys, and the rich guys then leave and they take their money, because Zoran Mamdani does not have the power to build a Berlin Wall around New York to keep the billionaires from leaving. And when the billionaires leave, the people who work for the billionaires leave, and pretty soon you're losing your middle class tax base too. And who is going to pay for all of these socialist freebies when you're only taxing the poorest of your people? That's all that's left. So this becomes a vicious cycle. And over time, what happens, we don't have to wonder. We've seen Venezuela, but closer to home, we've seen Detroit, which in 1950 or 1960 was one of the greatest cities on planet Earth, and they've completely destroyed it. Detroit is a disaster area. You would be better off living in Hiroshima, and that isn't coming back either. So if they want to do this to New York, or more broadly to California, Illinois, etc., well, so be it. Texas and Florida will reap the benefits, as will Tennessee and Kentucky, and the whole world just keeps moving without them.
Absolutely, they are. Let's
Yeah,
talk
and
about
it's-
inflation,
there's
Dean.
some-
if we can. Go ahead, Dean. Continue.
Real quick, something to think about. Years ago, I started saying that there is no CEO in America who is thinking about moving to China or opening a plant in China, because
No.
now there's there's no CEO in America thinking of moving headquarters or starting production facilities in New York, San Francisco, Seattle, or any of those other, Detroit. There is no CEO in America thinking of moving to those places. There's lots of them trying to get out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Unless you're the CEO of a moving truck company, then maybe that's a great place
You
to.
still wouldn't want a headquarter there.
I wouldn't want a headquarter. I'd want a lot of different satellite facilities in those areas. That's for dang sure. Let's
Oh, yeah.
talk about inflation, Dean. Something that's in your your wheelhouse. Inflation, they said it's still right around 3.4%. Do we believe that?
Well, Trueflation's numbers about 2.68, and of which 3/4 of that is fuel and oil. So we do have, we're seeing oil was touching $90 a barrel recently. So it's fluctuating, and we're going to get past this. I don't know how long. We haven't killed enough of them yet. When we do kill enough of them, they will surrender, and then this will be over. It's just how long does it take? Nobody knows. I think these things, they're very simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. It's simple. We've got to kill enough of them, and we can't negotiate. They're not going to negotiate. Whatever they do negotiate, they're not going to keep. It looks like the military hardliners have taken over the governmental space. Until that gets reversed and the government takes over the IRG space and starts moving them out of the country, killing them, whatever, we're not going to have an agreement with Iran that sticks. So, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. And then
But as we've
when
talked
we
about
do,
on the show many times, the economy is going to start really rocking and booming. And Rod and Dean, you guys have talked about that for months, that after June, July, things will really start to kick in. The infrastructure is being built. Jobs are going to be increasing because of construction and things like that. Is that still on track, Rod?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are in a shocking CapEx boom. It's just extraordinary to see what's happening. And no, the whole $18 trillion in outside investment hasn't been spent yet to complete factories yet, but it's flowing. It is happening. And you see it in countless respects. This new Terafab that Elon is announcing is just amazing. We're going to reshore a tremendous percentage of the semiconductor industry over the next few years. But even bigger than that is you've got to have electricity to power it. And, we went for decades without a single new nuclear reactor in this country. Under Donald Trump, we've taken 5 new reactors critical in under a year. I mean, it's just amazing. So you build small modular reactors, that takes care of your power problem on your data centers. Your data centers are employing, depending on the size, something between 20 and 300 people, averaging between $90,000 and $200,000 a year. That's really beneficial to any community, especially if it doesn't need water or if it only needs a little bit of water in a closed cycle. None of this is getting talked about by the protesters who are being funded, whether they know it or not, they probably don't, by Chinese dark money. And we published a thing on that yesterday at the Rod Martin Report. So, what we're seeing is this incredible gathering boom that looks exactly like 1983. And in the beginning of 83, everybody thought that Ronald Reagan was toast and didn't have a chance in 1984. And by November of 84, nobody imagined that anybody could beat him, and he won 49 states. Could have won 50 if he had campaigned a little harder in his opponent's home state. So, we are on the cusp of that in much the same way, actually, as long as we're going to use historical analogies. Look at 2018 and 2019. Going into the 2018 midterms, we get smacked around a little bit by a combination of Bob Mueller and the hangover from the Obama economy. By 19, the Trump economy was absolutely hitting on all cylinders. Everybody thought the new super cycle was kicking off, and it would have been had it not been for the pandemic. So, and now we're learning a lot more about that from Tony Fauci's diaries. It's really extraordinary just how evil those people truly were, especially
Criminal.
on the miscarriages.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they knew. They totally knew. And they required women to take these shots while pregnant. It is evil. But again, had it not been knocked off track, had you not had the Biden interregnum, this would have been going on now for years. And starting at the beginning of 2019, but it got kicked off by Trump's tax reform in December of 2017. And we're seeing that process again. Once it gets going, it's going to be really hard to stop.
I agree with you. Dean, we're running up
Yeah.
against the hard break here. You're going to get the final thought, bud.
Well, just a little bit down the road from me, just a little ways, there is $100 billion investment going in for a new AI data center and a new uranium enrichment facility. And this is Western Kentucky. This is flyover country. There's only 1 million people in our trade area. Draw a circle 50 miles from where I'm set, and there's only about 1 million people. And that's $100 million going into far Western Kentucky for a data center. And you talk about water. Well, they're sitting right next to the Ohio River. They've got plenty of water. And, so that's happening here. One thing I'd like to say, and Rod touched on it, but how many of the big names are now facing indictment or sentencing? We talked about that. Comey, Clapper, Fauci, Brennan. These things are happening. And we said 6 months ago it takes 18 months to get an indictment. It's now been 20 months since this president was elected, or since he took office. And we're seeing it. We told you this was going to happen. It is happening. So for everyone who has been sweating and all frustrated because we're not getting prosecutions of people that we need to prosecute, look up and smile, because it's happening.
And guess what else has happened?
There's the
Our
great
special
Steve
guest, Stephen Moore, has just popped into the
Hi,
Stephen.
how you guys doing?
Well, we were just talking about the economy, and no better person to bring on board to the show than Stephen Moore. Welcome into the Business Pulse.
Well, thank you. So tell me about the show.
Well, we're just in the middle of it, and you popped in, which is great, because we want to talk about the economy. We're talking about the infrastructure bill, everything that's been done, $250 billion. Bank of America has decided to jump in there. And let's get your thoughts on where you think the economy's going, Stephen.
Well, listen, I think that the economy, I give a grade of a B. Trump obviously took over from the wreckage of Biden and the high inflation and the big expansion of government spending and debt. And the economy is much better shape than it was 2 years ago, no question about it. And my feeling is, look, we have a situation now with a record high stock market. We've got more jobs available than people to fill them. And we've got a situation with domination of the new internet age and the new artificial intelligence age. So I think we're in good shape. There's not a single country in the world that wouldn't want to trade places with the United States.
Absolutely. And Rod was just talking about that if it had not been for the hostile takeover of our government in 2020, America would be cooking right now.
Oh, there's no doubt. And people forget that if it had not been for COVID, and we learned, what a sinister event that was with Fauci. If it had not been for COVID, Trump would have won a 40-state reelection landslide in 2020. But he's president now. Now, look, obviously we have the problems with the debacle in Iran. But other than that, we've got an economy that is really firing on all cylinders. People are angry about prices of things, but we got a report just came out today that showing inflation is starting to come down. That's going to be really good news for middle-class families.
Absolutely. Now, Stephen, where can people find you online if they want to get in touch with you? I know you've got your Unleash Prosperity email that I get. What else have you been up to lately? I mean, I see you everywhere. Give us the.
Well, thank you. I mean, so I want to alert all of your listeners and viewers that they can get our hotline that you were referring to for free. It costs absolutely nothing. Just go to unleashprosperity.com and sign up, and it goes out 5 mornings a week. You can read it 5 or 6 minutes, and it's very popular with conservatives around the country. I know even Donald Trump reads it sometimes, so I hope your viewers will get it.
Absolutely. What else should we be on the lookout for as we venture in towards the end of 2026, moving into 2027 in the economy?
Well, look, I mean, we have to, what I think is the most concerning thing to me right now, guys, is the radical left-wing socialist movement has taken over the Democratic Party, and that's very disturbing to me. We should have hopefully learned the lesson that these policies do not work and they cause human misery. It's why so many millions and millions of people escaped behind the Iron Curtain and sought freedom. And America is the land of the free. It's the greatest opportunity society in the history of the world. And we want to make sure we keep it that way. We want to keep our taxes low. But, this is a country, we should never denigrate people who are successful. The Elon Musks and the Sergey Brins who started Google and the Thomas Edisons and the Henry Fords of our era. You know, that there's this idea that if we just tear them down, somehow that's going to make everybody else better off. No, we want to make sure everyone, we want to make poor people rich, not rich people poor.
Right.
Absolutely.
Amen.
It's like you were actually watching our show as we were taping it, because we talked about all of that, with Detroit being the way it was back in the 50s and 60s, and Detroit is now a crumble town, and what's going on in New York.
It is. Well, look at what's happening, unfortunately, we have four major cities in the United States today, four of our largest cities in the country: New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Seattle. And all four of them have been taken over by leftist socialists. And you see the results. You're seeing jobs flee, businesses flee, people are in the streets protesting. And it's sad to see, because I love America's great cities. I'm from Chicago myself. I love Chicago, but it's being ruined by a mayor, Brandon Johnson, who wouldn't know how to run a two-car parade. And that's the problem we're seeing in so many of our cities. But I think people are going to come to their senses. I think the most important election coming up in our lifetime is going to be 2028, where it's going to be a vote whether you want socialism or you want free market capitalism.
Absolutely. One more time where people can find you, Stephen. Your prosperity.
Yeah, thank you for asking again. It's free, folks. It's absolutely free. It just costs you nothing. I'm not selling you anything. Just go to unleashprosperity.com and sign up for our free hotline, which I know you guys get, and I hope you read it every day. I know so many of the members of Congress and the senators reading it, and Newt Gingrich told me the other day it's the first thing he reads every morning. So get it for free. Go to unleashprosperity.com. Click on the hotline and we'll send it to you for free. And if you don't like it, just unsubscribe.
And allow me to be the first one also to welcome you inside of the Freedom Chamber. You're our new member,
Oh,
and, a new
I'm
advisor
so
in
glad.
the public forum.
So thrilled with what you guys are doing. We need voices out there every day explaining to Americans the virtues of it. This is the greatest country in the history of the world. Everybody wants to come here. Let's not let the leftists destroy our great country.
Absolutely. Real quick, I want you to hang on the line with us, Stephen, but I want to wrap up this segment. Dean, where can people find you online, sir?
Owen CPA, OWEN CPA. Jump online, connect with my team, and let's figure out a way to disinherit the government and not your kids.
And it's delivered freshly to my inbox at least twice a day. The Rod Martin
Wow.
Report. Talk to me, Rod. Where can we find you?
Well, first, before I say that, welcome, Steve.
Yeah.
Fantastic that you're here. And everybody always needs to go to Unleash Prosperity. You are a
Thank
great
you.
American. One of the great tragedies of our time is that the liberals blocked you from getting on the Federal Reserve Board. And, I just pray that something will change. But regardless, come to rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org, where we do daily geopolitical analysis. Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. Hundreds of thousands of followers online. There's a reason. So come to rodmartin.org.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And if you can find us, you can always find us at freedomchamber.net. That's where you can find Stephen, you can find Dean, you can find Rod. freedomchamber.net, the Freedom Chamber. Remember,
Thank you, Chuck.
you got
Take
it.
care.
Hang on. I want you to hang on with this. But remember, without 2A, there is no 1A. And this has been the Business Pulse.
The American dream, full of grit, determination, and unthinkable achievements. Building and owning your own business is a monumental task. A place to find guidance, resources, and connections doesn't exist.
Until now. The Freedom Chamber.
A dynamic and innovative organization established to empower businesses across all sectors. The Freedom Chamber. Find us online at freedomchamber.net. Join us today.